Yes. Super excited. We are all pumped to have James Renner.
James Renner.
Suspects that James Renner has zeroed in on.
James Renner once again drops a bombshell.
Investigative journalist, reporter James Renner, who's been on the podcast, longtime friend of
By
mine.
a local writer, James Renner.
James Renner.
James Renner.
Right now, please put your hands for your host, James Renner.
Congratulations, true crime addicts. We've survived another week, the first week of January. It is Friday, January 6th, 2023, which sounds like the future. I looked outside, there's no flying cars yet, but that certainly sounds like the future, and we're living in it. Yeah, yes. This is True Crime This Week, and I'm your host, James Renner. There's the bell. Hey, as always, we've got Walter behind the camera. Everybody say hi to Walter. Hi, Walter. All right. Back with some old jokes in 2023. Hey, if you're new to this program, hit the like and subscribe button, smash that subscribe button, as they say, and that way you get these videos every Friday morning. You jump on YouTube, and there I am, waiting for you. I'm waiting to share the true crime news that you need to hear, that you're probably not going to get anywhere else for another week or two. This is like your front row seat to all things true crime. You're welcome. At the top of the year, I'm doing something new. In about another week or two, on the 18th, it begins. I'm offering some online classes on how to write true crime and how to research and publish and everything to do with writing about true crime. I'm doing 5 classes throughout the next few months, and you can sign up for them on Zoom. But for more information, check out jamesrenner.com. I'm going to post some stuff up over the weekend. jamesrenner.com if you're interested in learning about how to write true crime and do what I do. Lucky you. Let's get to the top stories, though. It's been a couple weeks since I've been able to talk to you about these stories. We did the wrap-up of the top 10 true crimes of 2022, and then we took a week off, and now everybody's rested. So here we go. The top story, unarguably, this first week of January, this first week of 2023, is the arrest of Bryan Kohberger. Now, just yesterday, Bryan Kohberger appeared in court in Idaho, where he was officially charged with the murders of 4 University of Idaho students, Madison Mogen, Kaylee Goncalves, Zaina Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin. If convicted, Kohberger could be put to death by the state. The 4 students were murdered in the townhouse they shared in Moscow, Idaho on November 13th. We've been following the story for a while. 2 additional students were on the bottom floor of this 3-story townhouse. They were unharmed. In these strange circumstances, it's very rare for this type of murder to occur with 4 victims and nobody found at the scene. And then you've got 2 survivors, and the location and the timing. It made for a very strange story. And that led to all sorts of conspiracy theories from armchair sleuths, especially on Reddit and TikTok. And they took issue with how little information that police were sharing. They were trying to say, this is another Delphi, Indiana type of case. They're dragging their feet. They're not really doing anything. Well, now we know they were doing a hell of a lot. They were doing their job this whole time, quietly and smartly. And they don't care about social media. In fact, I think in this case, social media actually helped them because they didn't want Bryan to know that they were actually onto him. And they were onto him back in November, by the way. A lot of this came out through the probable cause document that was released in court just yesterday. Here's what led police to Kohberger. This is according to CNN. The killer, they knew, used a K-bar style marine knife. This is the standard issue marine knife that they give you when you're in the Marines. It's called a K-bar. It's for killing. He used that to murder his victims, and the dummy left his knife sheath behind. It was apparently found on a bed. DNA from that sheath matched DNA from a sample they pulled from the trash at Kohberger's family place in Pennsylvania. Now, Kohberger, after the murders, drove along with his father. His father drove in the car with him from Idaho back to his parents' place in Pennsylvania for the holidays. And they, by the time he actually drove to Pennsylvania, they were already kind of surveilling him. In fact, we learned that the FBI asked local police to pull Kohberger over during that trip so they could get body cam footage and pictures of his hands to match to some sort of forensic evidence. So they were doing everything they possibly could. Law enforcement also took a look at all the phones that were in the area of Moscow, Idaho, that townhouse, remember, at the time of the murders. We don't know all the details yet, but I'm guessing there are those stations that ping and the cell phone towers, and they kind of track what numbers are on those receivers at any time, or relays, I'm sorry. They discovered that Kohberger's phone was near the murder scene at the time, that he'd also visited the scene 12 times before the murder, as if he was kind of casing the place. This might have been in the planning stages for quite a while. Then after the murders, so the murders occurred around 4 a.m., after the murders, around 9 a.m., 9:30, he returned to the scene for some reason and was there for a few minutes. Kohberger also owned a white Hyundai Elantra, the kind of car that was seen on security cameras the night of the crime. And 5 days after the murder, he changed his license plate. Nothing suspicious about that. We also know that one of the roommates who survived, one of the women that were downstairs, actually saw the killer in the house. This unnamed woman heard crying in the house, and then she heard a voice saying, quote, "It's okay, I'm going to help you." How chilling is that? She peeked out into the hallway, saw a figure clad in black clothing and a mask covering their mouth and nose, but was able to see these bushy eyebrows as he walked by her and then out through the back door. We don't know why she didn't call police immediately or make sure her friends were okay, but shock in those dramatic situations, especially for young people, can do crazy things. So I'm chalking this up to shock, or even just being a college student. All sorts of crazy things happen all the time. You don't know what's important, what's not. So don't put too much importance on that. Kohberger was a grad student at Washington State University, which is about 15 minutes outside of Moscow. And he was studying criminal justice. He had taken classes from acclaimed authors who had written about serial killers. It looked like maybe he was studying the game. Anyways, you see pictures of him. I'm going to bring this up again. Here's Kohberger. Look at those crazy eyes. Like, are crazy people born with those eyes, or do they develop them after they go crazy? Those are some crazy eyes. Like, he's hooked on something, or just, it looks like something peering out of a meat suit. Whatever is really inside of him. I honestly don't think this guy is going to survive prison. He doesn't look like the type that would fare well in there for very long. So let's see how this story develops. The coolest story this week by far was how a certain douche canoe, sex trafficker, was taken down by environmental activist Greta Thunberg. First, and I'm talking about Andrew Tate, but first you got to know who Andrew Tate is. He's a 36-year-old kickboxer and self-proclaimed misogynist who got kind of famous a few years ago when he appeared on Big Brother UK for, a couple episodes. This according to The Independent. Anyways, Tate leveraged that little fame to build kind of a sleazy empire online. He started this thing called Hustlers University. It's an online school for chads that charged $49 a month for tips on creating passive income, but was probably closer to a traditional pyramid scheme. What got him in big trouble, though, was his adult webcam business. Viewers could get access to private sessions with lingerie-clad women for the low price of $4 an hour. If that sounds too good to be true, it's because it is. If you're getting something and it feels like you're getting it for free, you are the product, right? Didn't they say that in The Social Network? Well, there was another scam going on, a scam within a scam, the donut hole within the donut hole, as they say. The women in the lingerie in these chat rooms would tell the men, once they got them going, they'd start crying and say they had like a sick grandmother or even like a sick dog and they needed some money for surgery. And you see the kind of transactions that would happen. Of course, these men would want to help these women in their time of need, and that $4 an hour session would end up becoming tens of thousands of dollars worth of scam. So Andrew Tate, he also has this toxic online personality, and he got banned from a lot of social media sites after saying things like women should, quote, shut up, have kids, sit at home, be quiet, and make coffee, and explaining that men are more naturally attracted to 18-year-old girls because they've, quote, been through less dick. Great guy. On December 29th, Tate tweeted at Greta Thunberg. Now, Greta, why? I mean, that on the surface appears very random, but Greta is a target by these or from these crazy neocon, new conservative, misogynist figures because she's so very liberal and because she's young and attractive and they want to bone her. He tweeted at Greta Thunberg, and he was bragging about his carbon footprint. He said, quote, I have 33 cars. This is just the start. Please provide your email address so I can send you a complete list. To which Thunberg responded, quote, yes, please do enlighten me. Email me at smalldickenergy@getalife.com. And the whole internet was like, damn, right? Do they still say that? So there was this online war brewing, and Tate clapped back because he has to get the last word, and he came back with a short video that showed him sitting in a room with boxes from Jerry's Pizza. Now, that's a pizza chain that only exists mostly in Romania. And until then, authorities were unsure about his whereabouts, but once they knew he was back in the country, they promptly arrested him and his brother. Authorities say that Tate and his brother have formed an organized crime group that was trafficking women. So nicely done there. I love it when instant karma is so very rare, but when it happens on a stage like that, it's beautiful stuff. I have to talk about this case that happened during the Christmas break. It kind of flew under the radar. I saw this today. I couldn't believe it. I have to share it with you. A teen girl in Michigan was the target of a particularly tenacious bully. What kind of bully? A particularly tenacious one, who texted hundreds of abusive messages, but used a VPN to hide their identity. At least they thought they could hide their identity that way. The girl and her mother pleaded with police to help them, and eventually the FBI got involved. Now, the girl's mother, you should know, was also the basketball coach at her daughter's high school. She told police she thought it was another girl from the school who was stalking her daughter. So imagine their surprise when the FBI tracked down the IP address behind that VPN and found that it was owned by the girl's mother, named Kendra Licari. The mother was stalking and harassing her own daughter. What the hell, right? It almost, nobody can quite figure it out yet. But I have a theory. To me, this sounds like a new case, a new spin on Munchausen's by proxy. I think it's possible the mother saw the kind of attention she and her daughter got when her daughter was the target of bullying and upped the ante a little bit and just relished all that attention. So I think it's like, you could call it Munchausen's by catfishing or something. I don't know, but it seems to fit in that category. I could be wrong. Now, Licari is charged with 2 counts of stalking a minor, 2 counts of using a computer to commit a crime. Those are felonies, by the way, and obstruction of justice. She faces 10 years in prison. And her daughter faces lots and lots of therapy. I hope she manages to pull out of that mess. That is nutso. Okay. Those are the top stories. I've got I found some weird true crime news this week, and there's also another Solve with DNA Doe project, And the very first transgender woman was executed in the United States this week. Lots more to come. I'll be back in 2 and 2 with more true crime this week. And we're back with Sanford and Son, starring Demond Wilson. The search for Malaysian Airlines Flight 370 continues, and Australia may financially back a new effort to find the jumbo jet that vanished with 239 people aboard in 2014. The Australian Transport Safety Board, or NAMBLA, led the effort to find the plane back then, and the director at the time was a guy named Peter Foley. Now, the search was suspended in 2017 after finding just very little evidence. Foley is now trying to use the upcoming anniversary to pressure the Australian government to look again, according to The Guardian. The flight went missing 40 minutes into a 6-hour flight from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing. This is a crazy case. This is there's part of me that really wants to dive in and write a book about this, but it's just so huge. It's such a massive, sprawling several countries. It's a massive mystery. And it seems strange that a jumbo jet could just disappear in this day and age. Seems like something out of Lost, something out of TV. But it's most likely at the bottom of the ocean to the west of Australia. Australia already spent $90 million looking for this thing. Foley wants to use this group called Ocean Infinity, which has these new, very powerful underwater robots, and go looking for it. Now, since the disappearance, 20 items believed to be from Flight 370 were found on beaches in the Indian Ocean. Specifically, this thing called a flaperon, which is part of the wing that goes up and down on the back that you can see out of your window, where the gremlins stand on. The flaperon was found and almost definitively shown to be from that Malaysian flight. It was found in July 2015, along with a Chinese water bottle. The leading theory is that the reason there was so little found of the flight is that it went vertically into the water, leaving very little debris. But it's like, I remember when I was a kid, before they found the Titanic, and everybody was trying to find the Titanic. We know it's down there, we got to find it. This is kind of like our era's Titanic. We know it's down there somewhere, and hopefully when we find it, it will lead to the answers to why it happened in the first place. Amber McLaughlin became the first transgender woman to be executed in the United States on Tuesday, when she was killed by the state for a 2003 murder, according to CBS News. McLaughlin was convicted of stalking and killing a former girlfriend in Missouri. That happened. That was that 2003 case. Her final words were, quote, "I'm sorry for what I did. I'm a loving and caring person." Her supporters talked about how she suffered abuse as a child, and that led to poor control and decisions, just like you hear in all these cases. She began transitioning in prison about 3 years ago. The Bureau of Justice Stats, check this out, this is interesting, I did not know this. The Bureau of Justice Statistics estimates that there are currently 3,200 transgender inmates in the United States. This just off the wire, I just got this about an hour ago. Another solve using genetic genealogy by the DNA Dope Project. This out of Zilwaukee Township, Michigan. After being unidentified for nearly 50 years, Daniel Garza Gonzalez now has his name back. Gonzalez, originally from B, Texas, was found floating in the Saginaw River just outside Zilwaukee in 1973. Authorities believed he died about 6 weeks prior. The case went cold until last year when Michigan State Police brought in the DNA Dope Project to try investigative genetic genealogy. This case was especially challenging given that the decedent was from an unrepresented population, meaning Hispanic, additionally complicated by the presence of endogamy. Endogamy is a word you want to know if you know anything about genetic genealogy or if you want to learn more. Endogamy is essentially a form of inbreeding. It's where first cousins marry each other, and that kind of distorts the family tree a little bit. You see that a lot in poor cultures, unrepresented cultures, even places like Appalachia where you've got this very small gene pool. This was a quote from team leader Karen Binder, a friend of the show. She goes on to say, "We're thankful that when we reached an impasse in our research, some DNA cousins of Daniel stepped up to help by uploading to GEDmatch to assist our team in identifying him. While more than 65% of unidentified persons in the NamUs database of missing and identified cases are people of color, the databases used by investigative genetic genealogists are still largely populated by white people." So nice job, DNA Doe Project. Keep it up. Here's that weird news story I was telling you about. There's this new company, and this is tangential to crime. It's kind of about crime. But a new company called Do Not Pay has developed the world's first robot lawyer. This according to The Sun. Now, we hear all about, have you been using ChatGPT? I mentioned this on the show last month, that new artificial intelligence writing program that is now writing kids' essays for school and doing PowerPoint and writing computer code. I've tried it. It's super spooky. It writes as well as, it certainly writes better than Twilight. If you like Twilight, you're going to like anything ChatGPT does. But we're on the cusp. Things are changing quickly. So now we've got this chatbot that you download as an app, and you plug your earpiece in, and it talks to you while you're in court. And it'll hear the prosecutor say blah 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 blah, and then it'll say, "Okay, object." You'll be like, "Object, Your Honor." I don't know if it goes that far yet, but that's what they're envisioning. This was originally devised to battle parking tickets, but it's now expanding to more serious crimes. And one of their quotes is, "Sue anybody at the press of a button." God help us all. The subscription service runs $36 a year, which sure beats a $5,000 retainer if you get into some serious trouble. So check it out. I'm kind of looking forward to that. Maybe it'll be more pricier for this if the sleazier the AI will be, you have to pay more. If you really want to make them pay, as Tim Misny says here in Cleveland, you gotta pony up a little bit. So, your next lawyer could be a robot, and I, for one, welcome our robot overlords. Taking a look at pop culture, Netflix has a fantastic new documentary out this week called Madoff, Monster of Wall Street. Here's the write-up. With an innovative visual approach, Madoff, the Monster of Wall Street is a 4-part, edge-of-your-seat financial thriller which reveals the truth behind Bernie Madoff's infamous multi-billion-dollar global Ponzi scheme and the ways in which a willfully blind financial system allowed it to flourish for decades. There are Ponzi schemes, and then there's Bernie Madoff, and what he was able to accomplish, and the number of people he was able to fool, and the billions of dollars he was able to snap his finger and vanish when it all came down is insane. I think it might have recently been usurped by Bankman-Fried, the guy that did the funny NFT stuff that got in trouble last month. But man, check it out. I was just watching clips from Robert De Niro's portrayal of Madoff and really enjoying his take and how, at the end of the day, this was just a guy that got in way over his head and wanted to provide for his family and friends at the expense of pretty much everybody else in Manhattan. So check it out, Madoff, Monster on Wall Street. And this is the segment where I pick out a true crime book to tell you about from the bookshelf this week. I want to tell you about Nittany Nightmare, the sex murders of 1938 to 1940, and the panic at Penn State. Now, I know Penn State from the other big mystery out there, the Ray Gricar case, but I didn't know much about these. Here's the write-up. As the Great Depression hit, Penn State College was cash-strapped and dilapidated. Cuts to athletic scholarships left the football program a shambles, could you imagine? And the school, a last resort for many students. In 1937, underfunded state police, fighting a losing battle against striking miners and steelworkers in Johnstown, called in the National Guard. There were not enough police to cover the state, and it showed. Then, someone started killing young women in the area. Between November 1938 and May 1940, 3 women were abducted and sexually assaulted, their bodies dumped within 50 miles of the college. As the school grew into Penn State University and the Nittany Lions became a world-class team, 2 demoralized police agencies were merged, forming the precursor for the Pennsylvania State Police. The killer of Taylor and Martin, however, have gone unidentified to this day. So cool history case here. Check it out if you're a fan of Penn State. Gives you a little more insight into how it became the institution that it is, and is maybe still recovering from that terrible crime. So there you go. Those are the top stories. The first week of 2023, we're off to a racing start. Hopefully this year will not be quite as bleak within the true crime world as it was last year. Let's not do so many school shootings this year, please. And it is Friday, which is always reason to celebrate. You got the weekend looking ahead. You got your Saturday and Sunday. Take it easy. Watch some movies. Watch that Madoff thing on Netflix. And in the words of the incomparable Murray Saul, the godfather of Cleveland radio, that means we gotta get down. Damn it. True Crime This Week is a Fearful Symmetry production. Photo and artwork are licensed through Shutterstock. If you like the cut of my jib, I have another podcast you might enjoy called The Philosophy of Crime, in which I attempt to solve the big questions behind our true crime obsession by looking to philosophy for answers. Thank you for listening. I'll see you next week. Sit, Brownie, sit. Good dog.